Yes, guys, England won, New Zealand 0 in the first pre-World Cup friendly for Thomas Tuchel's men. It wasn't convincing. We got the job done. It's a clean sheet. It's a win. We dominated the game. We had loads of the ball. The pitch was awful. The weather was bad. Those are pretty much the highlights. If you haven't watched it, I wouldn't necessarily say it's important that you do, but in this video, I want to try and break down the reasons why Harry Kane is probably the only world-class player in this England squad who we are going to be so reliant on in this tournament. But again, what we saw last night, if you watched yesterday's video, there was a lot of elements about what I said in yesterday's video that were on show for England. And I want to kind of break down the Harry Kane performance. Of course, he was the match winner, but he was dropping deep a lot. A lot of England's opportunities and shots were coming from outside of the box, but we did see the willing runners of the wingers trying to get involved in the final third. So, first of all, let's take a little look at the England starting 11. Jordan Pickford, the number one in goal. Mark Guehi and John Stones in front of him. Djed Spence, who looks as though he's got a problem with his arm. And of course, because Liam Delap's in town, he's also got a problem with his jaw, but he played okay. Jarrell Quansah at right back. Jordan Henderson, Kobbie Mainoo in the middle with Marcus Rashford starting on the left. He was bright. Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers, and of course, England's captain, talisman and match winner, Harry Kane. When it comes to this starting 11, if you saw yesterday's video, I think only 4, maybe 5 of these guys will start for England against Croatia. Those players, Jordan Pickford, Mark Guehi, Marcus Rashford, in my opinion, and Harry Kane. I want to, first of all, though, talk a little bit about the overall feeling behind this victory, because I didn't watch the match live last night. I had to wake up very early this morning to drop my missus at the airport. And then I've watched the full 90 back with a nice cup of Coffee Planet coffee. And as much as I needed the coffee to get through it, because it wasn't massively entertaining, I can see, knowing very well how Thomas Tuchel wants his teams to set up, I can clearly see a different kind of preparation here from this England squad compared to what we have seen be quite a monotonous process of going through the motions under Gareth Southgate, and then when it really matters, when it's crunch time, how do we convert those motions into game plans that enable us to win? Now, I want to show you Thomas Tuchel's post-match interview. I want to play about 40 seconds of it here, and then I'll come back to you.
I'm okay with it. I'm not super happy about it. I like the second half more than the first half. I think we had more bite in the second half, some good half chances and some good penetrations into the box. We played more from our positions, and that's why we played with more speed. And off the ball, like I said, we played with a bit more bite. The first half we were out of positions and it was a bit too much freestyle, and that slowed our game down and made it difficult for counterpress, because we were not in the positions that we wanted to be when we started attacking. So.
Now, interestingly, at the start of this video, I said Harry Kane is the only world-class player in the England squad. I don't mean that there isn't any other world-class footballers, but in terms of the importance, if England are going to win this tournament, Harry Kane will have the biggest impact. Now, what we saw from Harry Kane early on in the game was dropping deeper. We know that he wants to do that. We talked about it yesterday. He wants to drop deeper to enable the likes of Marcus Rashford or a Rogers, and even in this case, an Ollie Watkins, to be able to get forward and make those runs in behind. The issue with this, from an England perspective, is what Thomas Tuchel's alluded to in his interview, where in the first half in particular, when Harry Kane is still out there on the pitch, there's a lot of freestyle. There's a lot of players here that don't usually play together. Tuchel, in the same interview that I've not used the clip for, does mention how a lot of these players have only literally been together 4 times since November. And we're talking about 4 individual football games, not all of the different camps and training sessions that you'll go through at club level. So for England, we're always trying to make something happen with a very solid, strong squad of players. But the problem has always been, how does that actually translate on the pitch? When you hear rival country fans talk about England, we're the sleeping giant that's not won anything for 60 years. But we do quite well, don't we? We're consistent. We've got to the quarterfinals and semis of the last 2 World Cups and the last 2 finals of the continent, Euros. So when I look at this England performance, what Tuchel's talking to in the first half, that element of freestyle, that's because this isn't the strongest starting 11. This 11, we've never seen this England team before. So, of course, even against a side like New Zealand, and I mean, just to compare, not to take the piss or anything, but when you look at the two countries. Like, Tim Payne might be one of the most famous blokes on the pitch, the right back, who we know has become very famous recently. But we're talking about a massive gulf in class here when it comes to the quality of the footballers on show. Now, obviously, the transfer value isn't important when we're discussing this game of football. But what is important is that we look at the things that worked. From an England perspective right now, beating New Zealand 1-0, it's not going to turn up too many trees. We're not going to have France and Didier Deschamps quaking in their boots. Ancelotti's not going to be worried when he watches this England team. I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is Thomas Tuchel's interview. And when he talks about playing in our positions, this is something that I think is very important. And when we look at this starting 11 again yesterday, and I mentioned the 4 players that I think might start: Pickford, Guehi, Rashford and Kane. We can see throughout the course of the pitch, you've got the striker, you've got the starting centre-back, you've got the starting goalkeeper. These are the core elements. This is what England need. We need a spine of the team that we know is going to feature in every single game. When I look behind Harry Kane, the player that impressed me the most yesterday was Marcus Rashford. He was getting into good positions. He was making those runs in behind when Harry Kane was dropping deeper. Now, Harry Kane dropping deeper could potentially be a problem for England. And this is where I bring back Tuchel's comments about playing with our positions. The roles that Tuchel has instilled in these players aren't as traditional as you would expect. It isn't going to be Harry Kane stays, lingers around the box. If we could have 2 Harry Kanes, I'd give us the World Cup trophy now. That's how simple I think this is. But we're not going to see Harry Kane constantly staying there, which means Morgan Rogers, whoever's playing in the 10, even the left back, and Marcus Rashford, their job is to ensure that when Harry Kane does drop deep and uses those playmaking abilities that he's got, someone is going to be there. In yesterday's video, I mentioned it will be Nico O'Reilly, probably starting as the left back because he's capable of getting forward. We've seen him do it on countless occasions for Manchester City. But I guess the problem with this England performance was that Harry Kane wanted the ball a bit too much. And the likes of Kobbie Mainoo and Jordan Henderson, whilst they didn't really do anything wrong defensively and in transition, but when England were on the ball, there was so much onus on Harry Kane dropping deeper to pick it up. And in terms of those positions and what Tuchel's asking us to do, I think it's going to take some time in this tournament. It's why I think England are going to start the tournament slow. Because in terms of building up that fluidity, we're going to be doing a lot of travelling as England in this tournament. There's going to be a lot of long journeys, a lot of different climactic changes as well that we've got to cope with. But I do think one of the big issues that we're going to have is, does everybody understand what Tuchel's asking them to do? That's why I think Rashford should start. I think with Gordon, yes, he's still very dynamic, but Marcus Rashford, I thought, was one of England's better players yesterday. The problem is that people look at the scoreline, and we'll look at the stats here for a second too, because the stats, they show you pretty much like any top Premier League team against the team at the bottom half of the table. You're going to dominate possession. You're going to get lots of shots. The one that is a problem is the fact that we only managed 4 shots on target out of the 23 shots that we had. But again, I'm happy to blame the pitch here. I'm also happy to say that we were taking a lot of shots from range because positionally, I think there was a bit of fear yesterday. I think there was a little bit of fear to allow the football to flow. Now, I know with Tuchel, once it starts to click, it works. We saw it happen almost immediately at Chelsea. We won the Champions League. And I think with Tuchel in this England squad, he's been working with them for enough time now. But again, it's about getting those top players and getting the starters back into the starting 11, because I don't think yesterday was anywhere close to what we're going to see from England, even against Croatia in the opening game of the tournament, particularly as we progress into the latter stages. But look, it's a 1-0 win. It's a clean sheet. I think defensively, you've got to give a lot of credit to Djed Spence. I thought he was very good, even though he looked like he literally just escaped from bloody hospital. Rashford, I thought, was excellent. I think he was direct. I think he was looking to get shots away. And again, the movement wasn't perfect, but it was exactly as I thought it should be and would be, with Harry Kane dropping deeper. Morgan Rogers, I didn't think had his best game. But all in all, I'm not throwing my toys out the pram. I was going to do 6 things we learned from this, but because there was so many changes and chopping around and everything, and it wasn't a non-contest, that would be unfair to say that to New Zealand, but I don't necessarily think we learned too much about England, apart from the fact that I think it will take time for this squad to click. And this is where the big question marks are. How quickly can we get it to work? I think we've got some good fixtures in the group. I don't mean easy by saying good. I think Panama we should beat. Croatia and Ghana are serious tests. And England know, with those two being the first two games, I'm happy that we've got those two games first. In the new World Cup format, you could probably lose both and still qualify if you're lucky. Not saying we're going to. Not saying we should even try to do that, obviously. But Croatia at home. It's not at home. It's in Kansas. Croatia in the first game, I think, is a brilliant test for this England squad. Because, again, you know what you're going to come up against Croatia. It will be what we saw from New Zealand on steroids, with a lot more quality in that Croatian side. So they'll be difficult to break down. And again, I'm sure we'll see something similar. I'm sure it'll be Harry Kane dropping deeper, but biding his time. And what a finish, by the way. He found that little pocket of space to flick the ball past the goalkeeper, the New Zealand keeper, who was called Crockham. Yeah, never heard of the geezer, to be honest. But look, it's not an awful result. It's not a brilliant England performance, but it's job done. We move into Costa Rica in a few days' time, and I believe the first game is 11 days away. I cannot wait for it. So make sure you're subscribed here to Project 90. We're on the way to 12,000 subscribers. I'd love to see how big we can make this channel over the course of the World Cup tournament. And yeah, for England, not brilliant, but it's a win. It's not perfect, and I'm not going to be throwing my toys out the pram just yet. Subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.